Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. The show where a certain someone with a particular last name mercilessly, relentlessly, and quite frankly, justifiably mocks another person with the very same last name. I'm sure that's pure coincidence. But also, I, as always, will trust you to decide who is who. We have now reached day 201, which I have to tell you, that is a lot of days to be subsisting during the Trump regime. And everything is absolutely fantastic. All we need to do in order to know that is listen to Donald. I mean, honestly, the country, America, just looks younger. It has a spring in its step, which you would expect in a nation that is experiencing such a golden age. In fact, I think it's safe to say that there's an optimism in this country that has not been seen since the early to mid 1930s. Just earlier this week, in a week that seems like it has been several years long already, the leader of the free world wandered around on the roof, rambled something incoherent to reporters because he had no idea that nobody could hear him. And the people on the ground could only look up and wonder, what in God's name are you up to, Donald? Don't jump, said absolutely nobody. But I want to start off this week's show with a major announcement from Hollywood. I mean, this I think is probably the biggest news to come out of the industry, perhaps in my lifetime. You may be aware that Tom Homan, the guy who is helping Immigration and Customs Enforcement become the Gestapo, he's recruiting a new ally. I mean, this is like Elvis joining the army level, earth-shattering. Who is it, you might ask? What luminary from Hollywood is joining ICE? Hope you're sitting down. Yes, none other than Dean Kane. Who? Oh, wait, Dean Kane. He was Superman, I think, in the 90s, like on a TV show, perhaps. For those of you who need a more specific context, Dean Kane is actually the Kirk Cameron of Scott Baio's. Sorry. I mean, I don't typically feel the need to apologize to people like Kirk Cameron or Scott Baio, but quite frankly, that is insulting to them too. There is literally no reason for you to remember who Dean Kane is. But still, let's check out this report in the event that it jogs your memory from Southern California's ABC 7 News.
Former Superman actor Dean Kane has confirmed he's joining ICE.
Yeah, he told Fox News yesterday that he'll be sworn in as an ICE agent ASAP. It came just hours after Kane posted an informal recruiting video on Instagram asking people to sign up to work for ICE. He said after that, he spoke with officials at ICE and decided he wanted to join as well.
Okay. Yeah, because that's how any of that's supposed to work. I'm going to guess that it's because Kane is desperately in need of that $50,000 signing bonus. Maybe. CNN reported on Tuesday that top Trump regime officials were scheduled to meet Wednesday at the vice president's residence in order to brainstorm about their response to the quote unquote Epstein situation. Their goal was to figure out whether or not to release an audio recording and transcript of Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's recent conversations with the vile, grotesque sex trafficker of girls and young women and very close associate of sex trafficker and rapist of girls and young women, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. Sources told CNN that the dinner would focus on forming a unified response to the controversy. In other words, they were trying to figure out how best to lie about all of it. Attendees were supposed to include White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, Vice President JD Vance, Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and the aforementioned Todd Blanche. What a dinner party. You know, sometimes you get that theoretical question. If you could invite anybody to a dinner party, dead or alive, who would it be? Well, this is the opposite of that. When Donald was asked about this dinner during a press conference in front of Vance, neither seemed to know anything about it. Apparently, nobody had bothered to tell them that news had leaked about the meeting because these idiots don't understand how recording devices work, and they are incapable of keeping secrets, even if they're secrets they most desperately need to have kept. Watch this.
Vice President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation.
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw a report today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
The whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit.
That's what it means to be presidential now. By the way, whenever Donald pretends he didn't hear or understand a question, what he's doing is figuring out how to respond, or let me rephrase, figure out what lie to tell in response. And whenever you hear JD Vance say it's fake news or Donald say it's a hoax, you know that it's true. Turns out that meeting did take place. There's no word on what was served for dinner. I refuse to speculate because I'll just get myself in trouble. Moving on to the ridiculous, unprovoked, and unilateral, deeply damaging trade war Donald started. Remember, he was supposed to nail down 90 deals in 90 days. That seems like forever ago because time doesn't work anymore. It was, for those of you keeping track, about 129 days ago. See, eternity. It was eternity. Since then, we've gotten a couple of deals. Like, by a couple, I mean like 2. And many, many countries have absolutely no idea what's going on. The trade war, however, marches on, and Donald told us this week that factories and businesses will soon be rushing back to build and do business in the United States. I mean, because he's just president of the United States, he has no idea when that's going to happen, but it's probably going to be very, 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 very soon. 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 decades, 2 millennia. Who's to say? Take a look.
We're asking our businesses to invest in America, and they're coming in at levels that we've never seen before. So I don't know when it shows up, but there are a lot of factories and a lot of plants that are either under construction or soon will be starting construction. So can't tell you exactly when, but I want to be around in about a year from now and 2 years from now, because we're going to see an explosion, I think, like this country has never seen before. Never.
And it's going to indeed be like something nobody's ever seen before because we're never going to see it. There's more. On Wednesday, trade advisor and resident crackpot Peter Navarro spoke to reporters at the White House about the Trump regime's new tariffs on India. He explained to us that India is the, quote, Maharaja of tariffs, unquote, because in today's government, there is nothing quite like an insult wrapped in a cultural stereotype. The permission structure for this stuff is just absolutely the only thing that Donald has ever built. It's quite something. So the increased 25% tariff from the imposed by the Trump regime on India was said to be a matter of national security because New Delhi is purchasing Russian oil. But Navarro also took a little time to try anyway to shift focus away from tariffs, which are disastrous no matter how desperately he tries to spin it, into a Russiagate conspiracy theory that Donald is trying to push in order to distract from Epstein. I think they need to start keeping it straight. What lie are we telling to distract from which distraction? But any clip that starts off with Navarro talking about spending time in prison is always something that we can enjoy together. So let's watch.
And here's what I want to say. I went to prison. As did Steve Bannon, for defending the Constitution. But there isn't a single person associated with the Russia hoax that's been held accountable. And the list is a long one. It goes Obama, Clinton, FBI Director Comey and other people worked there, like Page and Strzok, the intelligence community, and Brennan and Clapper. And the purpose of the Durham Annex is that ties it all together and brings also in George Soros and his son Alex and the Open Society Foundation. This is the most sophisticated political scandal that's ever been engineered. The most important thing I can tell you, if people are not held accountable for the Russia hoax, they will do it again. If people are not held accountable, they will do it again. And that's what I'm most concerned about. Okay?
Is that really what he's most concerned about? Let's put this in a little bit of context. Peter Navarro, as far as I'm aware, went to prison for contempt of Congress. It had nothing to do with anything else. And important to remember, none of the people who benefited from Russia's interference in the 2016 election has been held accountable for anything. In fact, they all roam free, and most of them are at the highest echelons of the United States government and are directly responsible for trying to destroy all of us. Speaking of crackpots, Republican House member Nancy Mace announced this week that she's running for governor of South Carolina. And because it's South Carolina, she very well may win. You might remember Mace, who was briefly a critic of Donald's, but then saw the light and decided that she was, quote unquote, Trump in high heels, unquote, her words, not mine. Since that transformation, she has been a vicious anti-trans activist. She has been a purveyor of anti-trans theatrics, which quite frankly are beneath contempt. She has been blatantly misgendering people and labeling anyone who speaks against her just vile bigotry as evil. If you think her gubernatorial campaign platform is going to be based on anything other than stunts, insults, and headlines, you would be wrong, because that's all she's got. This is a woman without substance. Mace wants us all to know that she's a serious candidate. So let's watch a little bit of her press gaggle as she announced her bid for South Carolina's highest office.
I'm going to show you a couple of my plans, because I don't want you to believe what the fake news is going to tell you, that Nancy Mace only does memes. I would support any action to remove fluoride from our water and also ban chemtrails. Like, we should do that. I want us to lead. I don't want to be following, but if we have to follow other states until we get there, we will do it. They don't like it when women speak up. The left hate women. They want men in our bathrooms. We're going to stop that in South Carolina, because on day one, if you give me a bathroom bill, state legislature, I will sign it into law. I am one of the most serious members of Congress.
Fuck off. Finally, in fuck around and find out news, I just want to harken back to the term, the leopards ate my face. For those of you who don't know, that phrase started back in 2019 with a post that read, quote, "I never thought leopards would eat my face," sobbed woman who voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. I mean, it's just a perfect summing up of the Republican base. That, of course, was a parody of political supporters who back cruel or self-destructive policies, then act absolutely shocked when that approach comes back to bite them and they are deeply and personally affected by the policies they supported. The leopards eating my face meme has really come into its own during the second Trump regime. So let's take a look at one of the latest examples of this in a report from CBS affiliate News Channel 11 from Houston, Texas.
New tonight, KHOU 11 confirming the owner of Trumpburgger Restaurants, which has several locations in the Houston area, has been arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and now faces deportation. ICE says Roland Biani, a 28-year-old from Lebanon, overstayed his visa after entering the U.S. back in 2019. He was taken into custody in May and is now out on bond as he awaits immigration proceedings. In a statement sent to KHOU 11, an ICE spokesperson told us, quote, Under the current administration, ICE is committed to restore integrity to our nation's immigration system by holding all individuals accountable who illegally enter the country or overstay the terms of their admission. This is true regardless of what restaurant you own or political beliefs you may have.
Bummer. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. And I just want to read you a list of all the things we didn't get to. But before we do that, I actually do have one other thing to add. If we actually think that in the long term, it isn't going to matter which political party you belong to or what your political beliefs are, I wouldn't be so quick to rush to that particular judgment. It absolutely is going to depend on who you are and who you support. All right, here we go with the list of things we did not get to because, the week is over and we got to get ready for next week. Linda McMahon, so-called leader of the Department of Education, which is essentially defunct now, was heckled through a hacked PA at a conservative conference and called a corrupt billionaire. The hackers went on to play circus music as she spoke. Definitely check it out if you have time. Joe Kernan fact-checked Donald in real time when he called into CNBC's morning show Squawk Box to complain about the jobs numbers and basically everything else, which, quite frankly, is the only thing Donald seems to be good at these days. We actually made a video about that interview, so check that out. Donald brought in quote-unquote new numbers and charts. I thought we had all of the numbers that we needed, but apparently, yes, there are new numbers now. And these were from right-wing political hack and Project 2025 co-author Stephen Moore. I seriously thought that we had seen the last of him, but here we are. Department of State spokesperson Tammy Bruce, who is a piece of work, still had absolutely nothing to say this week at a press conference. At least she's consistent. Although, quite frankly, for a spokesperson, she seems to speak very little and have nothing to say, and we're paying her. So that sucks. Donald again claimed that drug prices will be cut by 1,200 and 1,500%, which works for me. I mean, it does not work logically or mathematically, but as somebody who has prescription drugs that cost a lot of money, I would love it. Instead of paying $700 a month for an inhaler, I actually got the inhaler for free and then got a check from the federal government for about $40,000. Thanks, Donald. It's like literally the only time you haven't stolen something from me. Awesome. Fox State TV's Mark Levin told his viewers that those quote unquote obsessed with the Epstein problem are distracting from the Obama-Hillary Russiagate case. I swear to God, there are people who don't even remember what you're talking about anymore. It isn't working, guys. Find something else. White House Nazi Stephen Miller said that the Russia collusion hoax remains the greatest assault on democracy in history, saying, quote, there's no comparison, there's no parallel to anything else, unquote. Well, I'd actually say that you are the most offensive, assaultive, grotesque thing that's ever happened in American history. But that's because you're a Nazi. Donald said his poll numbers are again way up, thanks to CNN pollster Harry Emden. It's not his name, but we're pretty sure he meant Harry Enton, and we're pretty sure that that is all a lie. Newt Gingrich went on Fox State TV to claim that Donald is, quote, moving into a league that other than Washington and Lincoln, nobody has gotten the level of energy, drive, and effectiveness that we see with Donald Trump, unquote. If that is true, I'm not entirely sure I want to be in this planet anymore. But it isn't true, so we're not going anywhere. That list could go on and on and on. But again, we have lives to live, and we have to start compiling all of the horrors for next week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. Thank you again for joining us for this week 28 edition. We will see you all next Saturday. Have an amazing week. And don't forget, mockery is our greatest weapon. See ya.